My wife and I adopted an 18-year-old boy, but one day, when I arrived home early from work and spied on them, what I saw shocked me. The first time I caught them together, my wife's hand was resting on his forearm, her wedding ring catching the afternoon light as her fingers lingered there a beat too long. It was nothing a fleeting moment of contact, yet something in my chest tightened as I stood frozen in the doorway, watching them spring apart like guilty teenagers. "James," Laura's voice was pitched slightly higher than normal. "You're home early, Michael." The 18-year-old boy we had welcomed into our home just 6 weeks earlier studied the hardwood floor as if it contained the secrets of the universe. "Meeting got canceled," I replied, setting my briefcase down with deliberate care. "Thought I'd surprise you." The silence stretched between us, taut as a wire. "I should finish my homework," Michael finally mumbled, sliding past me with his eyes averted. Laura smiled too brightly. "I'll start dinner." And just like that, the moment dissipated like morning fog, leaving me wondering if I had imagined the entire thing. It started with small things, subtle glances, lingering touches, whispered conversations that abruptly stopped when I entered the room. At first, I told myself I was overthinking, that adopting an 18-year-old boy into our home was bound to come with some growing pains. But the unease clawed at my chest each night, refusing to let me sleep. My wife, Laura, had been the one to insist we take Michael in. "He's aging out of the system," she said one night, tears in her eyes as she showed me his case file. "If no one takes him now, he'll be on the streets." I said yes because I trusted her. Now, I wasn't sure who I trusted anymore. The decision to adopt Michael had come during what our marriage counselor delicately called a period of healing. After 3 miscarriages in 2 years, Laura and I had stepped back from fertility treatments, from the color-coded ovulation charts taped to our refrigerator, from the carefully timed intimacy that had transformed our bedroom into a clinical space of disappointment and grief. "Maybe we should consider adoption," Laura suggested one evening as we sat on opposite ends of our sofa. An ocean of unsaid words between us. I agreed, thinking she meant an infant, or perhaps a young child, one we could raise from the beginning, not a teenager, certainly not one who was nearly an adult himself. But then she showed me Michael's photo. "Look at his eyes, James," she whispered. "Do you see it? That loneliness." I did see it. I recognized it from my own reflection during the darkest months after our last loss. It was the look of someone who had given up on belonging anywhere. The adoption process was surprisingly swift. Michael had been in the system since he was 5, bouncing between foster homes, never finding a permanent placement. At 18, he would soon age out entirely, armed with nothing but a high school diploma and the clothes on his back to face the world. "He just needs a chance," Laura told the social worker during our home study. "Everyone deserves at least one person who believes in them." The social worker, Ms. Reeves, a no-nonsense woman with salt and pepper hair and shrewd eyes, studied us carefully. "Most couples want babies," she said bluntly. "Taking in a young man of Michael's age comes with different challenges. He's formed most of his personality already. He has history, baggage, don't we all?" Laura replied. 2 months later, Michael moved into our guest bedroom with a single duffel bag and a worn backpack. He was tall, lean, with dark hair that fell across his forehead and wary eyes that took in everything while revealing nothing. He called us Mr. and Mrs. Thompson despite our insistence that he use our first names. "Give him time," Laura said when I mentioned it. "Trust has to be earned when you've been let down as often as he has." I tried to be patient. I made awkward attempts at bonding, offering to shoot hoops in the driveway. He declined. Inviting him to watch basketball games, he sat silently on the far end of the couch. Asking about his interests, he shrugged and mumbled not much. Each rejection stung more than I cared to admit. Laura, however, seemed to break through his walls with surprising ease. I would come home to find them preparing dinner together, her laugh floating through the house as he apparently told jokes I never got to hear. Or I'd find them in the garden, she showing him how to prune the roses, their heads bent close together. "We talked about photography today," she told me one night as we got ready for bed. "Did you know he used to save up his allowance in his last foster home to buy disposable cameras? He's got quite an eye. I hadn't known. He'd never mentioned photography to me. The next day, I bought him a second-hand digital camera. When I presented it to him after dinner, his eyes widened with surprise. "Laura mentioned you like photography," I said, attempting casual friendliness. "Thought you might enjoy this." He took the camera carefully, turning it over in his hands. "Thank you," he said, the first words he'd spoken directly to me all week. For a brief moment, I saw a glimpse of the boy beneath the armor, vulnerable and grateful. Then Laura swooped in. "This is wonderful, Michael. Show me how it works." Just like that, I was forgotten as they huddled together over the camera, and the familiar knot of discomfort tightened in my chest. That night, I tried to talk to Laura about it. "Don't you think you're getting a little intense with Michael?" I ventured as she applied moisturizer to her face. Her hands paused. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you spend every minute with him. You barely talk about anything else." She lowered the jar slowly. "Are you jealous of a teenage boy, James? Put that way." It sounded ridiculous, petty. I backpedaled. "Of course not. I just think he might benefit from some space to adjust. And maybe I'd like a few minutes of my wife's attention now and then." Her expression softened. She came to sit beside me on the bed, taking my hand in hers. "I'm sorry if you felt left out. It's just he needs this right now. Connection. Stability. For the first time. He's starting to trust us, to trust me." I nodded, guilt washing over me. "You're right. I'm being selfish." Laura leaned her head on my shoulder. "No, you're not. This is a big adjustment for all of us. But it's going to be worth it, James. You'll see." I wanted to believe her. I tried to push away the nagging feeling that something wasn't right, that there was more to her interest in Michael than maternal instinct. For a week or so, things improved. Laura made a visible effort to include me in their activities. Michael started making occasional eye contact, even volunteering information about his day at school. We settled into a tentative routine, the three of us circling each other like wary planets finding their orbits. Then came the weekend. That changed everything. Laura's book club had an overnight retreat at a lake house 2 hours away. She'd been looking forward to it for months, and I encouraged her to go, to take some time for herself after weeks of focusing on Michael and me. "It's just one night," she said as she packed her overnight bag. "You two could use some male bonding time anyway." I agreed, though the prospect of 24 hours alone with our silent housemate was daunting. Maybe this was our chance to connect without Laura running interference. The evening after she left started awkwardly. I ordered pizza, which we ate in silence at the kitchen table. I attempted conversation about school, about the basketball game on TV, about the weather, for God's sake, and received one-word answers in return. "Look," I finally said, setting down my beer in frustration. "I know I'm not Laura. I know you'd rather be talking to her. But we're stuck with each other tonight, so we might as well try." Michael looked up, surprise flashing across his face. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. It transformed his features completely, making him look younger, more vulnerable. "Sorry," he said. "I'm not good at this." He gestured between us. "Me neither," I admitted. "But maybe we start with honesty. That's something, right?" He nodded, considering. "Okay, honestly, the pizza's kind of terrible." I laughed, caught off guard by his candor. "Yeah, it is. Want to order something else?" By the time we'd demolished Chinese takeout and half a pint of ice cream, something had shifted between us. Michael told me about his last foster home overcrowded house with 6 other kids where he'd been just another mouth to feed. I told him about growing up with my high-achieving brother, always in his shadow. "That's rough," Michael said, genuinely sympathetic. "Being compared all the time." "Not as rough as what you've been through," I replied. He shrugged. "Different kinds of hard." I guess it wasn't a breakthrough exactly, but it was a crack in the wall. As we cleaned up the kitchen, I felt cautiously optimistic. Maybe this would work after all. Maybe we could become a real family, the three of us. That night, I called Laura to say goodnight. "How's it going?" she asked, the sounds of laughter and music in the background. "Good, actually. We talked, really talked." "That's wonderful, James," she said, but her voice sounded distracted. "Listen, I should go. We're about to start a game." "Sure, have fun." Love you. There was a pause. You too. I stared at the phone after she hung up. Not I love you too. Just you too. It was nothing. Probably she was busy with her friends. And yet, I slept fitfully that night, waking several times to check my phone, though I couldn't have said what I was hoping or dreading to find. At dawn, I gave up on sleep and went downstairs to make coffee. Michael's bedroom door was open, which struck me as odd. Peering inside, I saw his bed was empty, still made from the day before. My pulse quickened. Had he run away? Should I call someone? Before I could decide, I heard the front door open quietly. Moving silently to the top of the stairs, I watched as Michael slipped inside. Still wearing yesterday's clothes, his hair disheveled. He checked his phone, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth as he read something on the screen. A text. At 6 a.m., who was texting a teenager at dawn on a Sunday? I retreated to my bedroom, my mind racing with possibilities, none of them good. When I came downstairs an hour later, feigning normalcy, Michael was showered and dressed, calmly eating cereal at the kitchen counter. Morning, he said casually. Morning, I replied, studying him for any sign of where he'd been. Sleep well? Yeah, fine. I considered confronting him directly, asking where he'd gone so early or if he'd gone out last night after I went to bed. But the fragile truce between us felt too valuable to risk. And what would it accomplish? Other than pushing him away, teenagers snuck out. It was practically a rite of passage or still. The incident left me unsettled. When Laura returned that afternoon, I pulled her aside while Michael was upstairs. I think he snuck out last night, I whispered. His bed hadn't been slept in, and he came back around 6 a.m. Laura frowned. Did you ask him about it? No, I didn't want to start an argument, but I thought you should know. She squeezed my arm. Thanks for telling me. I'll talk to him. I expected her to address it immediately, to establish boundaries. Instead, she said nothing. When I questioned her about it that evening, she shrugged. I spoke with him. It's handled. That's it. It's handled. Don't you think we should discuss consequences together? Laura sighed, brushing her hair with long, methodical strokes. A clear signal she considered the conversation finished. He's 18, James. Practically an adult. We're not going to ground him. Then what did you say to him? I reminded him that we worry, that we care about his safety. I asked him to leave a note next time, or text one of us. She set down her brush and turned to face me. He's testing boundaries, seeing if we'll throw him out at the first mistake like every other. Family has. We need to show him we're different. It made sense when she put it that way. And yet, something about her explanation felt rehearsed, as if she'd anticipated my concerns and prepared her response in advance. The incident marked a turning point in our household dynamics. Michael, rather than becoming more integrated into our family, seemed to retreat further from me while drawing closer to Laura. Their private conversations multiplied. Twice more I caught him sneaking in at dawn, and both times Laura brushed off my concerns. He has friends now, she explained. A social life, isn't that what we wanted? It was what we wanted, of course, for Michael to feel normal, to have the teenage experiences his turbulent childhood had denied him. But the secrecy surrounding these outings and Laura's apparent complicity gnawed at me. Then came the night I discovered the first concrete evidence that something was wrong. I was looking for a stapler in Laura's desk drawer when I found the prepaid cell phone. It was a basic model, nothing like the smartphone she used daily. My stomach dropped as I picked it up, turning it over in my hand. Why would my wife need a secret phone? I shouldn't look. I told myself I should ask her directly, give her a chance to explain. But my thumb was already pressing the power button. The screen lit up, requesting a passcode. Of course, I tried her usual password, 0317. Our anniversary, nothing. I tried her birthday, nothing. On a hunch, I tried Michael's birthday, May 22nd, 5:22. The phone unlocked, my hands shaking now. I opened the text messages. There were only conversations with one contact, labeled simply M. My vision blurred as I read through them. Miss you already. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Last night was perfect. I think about you all the time. That last message, the words I'd overheard through our bedroom door weeks ago. Michael's voice, soft and intimate. I sat heavily on the office chair, the phone clutched in my hand like a live grenade. This couldn't be happening. Not Laura. Not with a boy half her age, a boy we'd promised to protect and guide. I heard the garage door opening, Laura returning from the grocery store. Quickly, I replaced the phone exactly as I'd found it, closed the drawer, and stood just as she called my name from the kitchen. "In here," I replied, amazed at how normal my voice sounded when my world was imploding. That night, I watched her carefully, searching for signs. She seemed exactly the same, my Laura, the woman I'd loved for 12 years, preparing dinner, asking about my day, laughing at something Michael said. Was it all an act? Had I misinterpreted the messages? After dinner, Michael disappeared upstairs to finish a school project. Laura and I cleaned the kitchen together, moving around each other in the familiar choreography of a long marriage. "I was thinking we could take that weekend trip to the coast next month," she said, loading the dishwasher. The three of us. Michael's never seen the ocean. I nearly dropped the glass I was drying. She was planning family vacations while carrying on this, whatever it was, right under my nose. "Sounds great," I managed to say later, as she slept. Beside me, I stared at the ceiling, my thoughts a chaotic mess. If I confronted her, she'd deny it. Or worse, she'd admit it and leave me for him. If I confronted Michael, it could destroy the tentative stability we'd built. If I contacted the authorities, what would I even say? He was legally an adult. Disturbing and inappropriate as it was, their relationship wasn't criminal, I considered. Leaving, packing a bag, and disappearing before dawn, leaving them to their betrayal. But something kept me there, lying rigid beside my sleeping wife. I needed to know more, to understand how this had happened, when it had started, whether I had somehow driven her to this. Michael had only been living with us for months, but the connection between him and Laura had grown disturbingly fast. They spent hours together in the garden, talking and laughing. He looked at her like a boy craving more than maternal affection, and worse, she looked back. The next day passed in a fog. I went through the motions at work, unable to focus on anything except the fragments of text messages playing on repeat in my mind. During a meeting, my boss asked me a direct question that I completely missed, earning concerned looks from my colleagues. "Everything okay at home, James?" my boss asked afterward. "Fine," I lied. "Just didn't sleep well." When I returned home that evening, the house was quiet. "Hello," I called, setting down my briefcase. In the garden, Laura's voice replied from the back of the house. I found them there. Laura kneeling before a flower bed, Michael beside her, both of them with dirt-covered hands and flushed faces. Something about the domesticity of the scene enraged me, the casual intimacy of their shared activity. Their matched expressions of mild surprise at my appearance. "You're home early," Laura said, standing and brushing soil from her jeans. "Meeting ended sooner than expected," I directed, my gaze at Michael. "How was school?" He shrugged, not quite meeting my eyes. "Fine. Learn anything interesting?" He glanced at Laura before answering. "Not really." The tension stretched between us, taut as piano wire. Laura cleared her throat. "I should start dinner." Michael would. "You finish planting these bulbs. I'll help," I said quickly, dropping my jacket on a garden chair. "You handle dinner." A flicker of something, alarm, annoyance, crossed Laura's face, but she nodded. "All right, I'll call you when it's ready." As she disappeared into the house, Michael turned back to the flower bed, his shoulders hunched defensively. "So," I said, crouching beside him, "you've been spending a lot of time with Laura." His hands stilled. "I guess. You just seem close." He said nothing, digging a small hole with focused intensity. "Must be nice," I continued, my voice deceptively casual, "having someone care about you that much." Michael placed a bulb in the hole, his movements deliberate. "She's been really kind to me." "Kind?" I repeated. "Is that what you'd call it?" He looked up then, his eyes meeting mine directly for the first time all day. "What would you call it?" There was a challenge in his voice, a hint of defiance that confirmed my worst suspicions. Not just Laura's betrayal, but his willing participation, his pursuit of my wife. Before I could respond, Laura called from the back door. "Dinner's ready." The meal was excruciating, the three of us seated around the table, maintaining a brittle facade of normalcy while every nerve in my body screamed, Laura kept up a steady stream of conversation, filling the silence with anecdotes from her day, asking Michael about an upcoming exam, skillfully avoiding any topic that might require more than superficial engagement from me. I watched them carefully, noting every glance, every accidental brush of fingers as dishes were passed. How had I not seen it sooner? The signs had been there all along. After dinner, Michael retreated to his room to study, while Laura and I settled in the living room, she with a novel, me pretending to read financial reports for work. After 20 minutes of staring unseeing at the same page, I broke the silence. I was looking for stamps in your desk yesterday. Laura glanced up from her book. Did you find them? They should be in the top drawer. I found something else instead. I watched her face carefully. A phone. For just a moment, her expression froze, then smoothed into polite confusion. A phone? Oh, you mean that old flip phone. I keep it as a backup in case mine breaks. The lie came so easily to her lips that I almost believed her would have believed her if I hadn't seen the messages myself. Strange choice for a backup, I said. A prepaid phone with only one contact. Laura closed her book, laying it carefully on the coffee table. What exactly are you accusing me of, James? I saw the texts, Laura, her face drained of color. You went through my private messages. Don't turn this around on me, I hissed, mindful of keeping my voice down. I know what's going on between you and Michael. She stared at me, her expression unreadable. And what exactly do you think is going on? You're having an affair with a boy we're supposed to be parenting. A vulnerable kid who trusted us to give him a stable home, not this. Laura's laugh was hollow, humorless. An affair with Michael. Have you lost your mind? I read the messages. Laura, last night was perfect. I think about you all the time. What am I supposed to think? She stood abruptly. I'm not having this conversation. You're being ridiculous and, frankly, disgusting. As she moved to leave the room, I grabbed her wrist. Don't walk away from me. Not now. Let go, she said, her voice dangerously quiet. You're hurting me. I released her immediately, shocked by my own action. In 12 years of marriage, I had never grabbed her like that, never used my physical strength against her. The look of fear and betrayal in her eyes cut through my anger like a blade through butter. Laura, I'm sorry, I didn't mean. I'm going to bed, she interrupted. I suggest you sleep in the guest room tonight. She left me standing there, shame and anger warring inside me. I waited until I heard our bedroom door close before pouring myself a generous whiskey. Collapsing onto the couch with the weight of the evening pressing down on me, I must have dozed off, because I woke with a start to voices coming from the kitchen, soft, urgent whispers. I checked my watch, 11:42 p.m., setting down my empty glass. I moved silently toward the sound. I think about you all the time, Michael whispered. I backed away from the kitchen doorway, not wanting to see what might accompany those words. My mind filled the gaps with horrible images. My wife in this boy's arms. Their betrayal made flesh in my own home. That night, I couldn't sleep. A storm of thoughts consumed me. Was it innocent? Was I going insane? Was I jealous of a boy we were supposed to help? One night, I came home early from work. I didn't announce myself. I walked through the door quietly, the house unusually silent. Then I heard her laughter. Low, intimate. I crept upstairs, past the hallway, and stopped outside our bedroom. The door was ajar. I didn't know what I expected to see, but what I heard made my heart drop. I think about you all the time, Michael whispered. I backed away. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. I couldn't face going through the motions, pretending everything was normal when my life was collapsing around me. I waited until Laura left to run errands and Michael departed for school. Before conducting a thorough search of the house, I found nothing in Michael's room. No love letters, no photographs, nothing to confirm my suspicions. In our bedroom, I checked Laura's nightstand, her jewelry box, beneath the mattress. Nothing. Finally, I returned to her desk, but the prepaid phone was gone. She'd moved it, presumably to a more secure location after realizing I'd discovered it. Around noon, my phone chimed with a text from Laura, stopping by Mom's after errands. Be home around 4. This was my opportunity. I could confront Michael when he returned from school, without Laura present to run interference. I could demand the truth, force him to confess, but as the hours ticked by, my resolve wavered. What if I was wrong? What if there was an innocent explanation for everything I'd seen and heard? I would destroy whatever progress we'd made as a family, damage Michael irreparably, perhaps drive him away for good. Laura would never forgive me. And if I was right, the reality might be even worse than the suspicion. Could our marriage survive such a betrayal? Could I ever look at either of them without seeing their deception? By the time I heard Michael's key in the front door, I had made a different decision. One I'm not proud of. So I made a decision. One I'm not proud of. The next evening, I pretended to head out for groceries. I waited 15 minutes down the block before quietly returning. I took off my shoes and crept inside like a thief in my own home. I knew their routine. Laura liked to read before bed, and Michael often brought her tea. But that night, something was different. The house was dim, lit only by the hallway lamp. My heart pounding, I made my way to the guest room, Michael's room, and slipped into the closet, leaving it cracked just wide enough to see. What I saw shattered me. Mr. and Mrs. Reynolds, I want to be honest with you, Ms. Benson said, adjusting her glasses as she studied the file in front of her. Adopting an older teen is challenging. Most couples want babies or young children. Sarah leaned forward. We understand, but after reading about Tyler's situation, we feel called to do this. I nodded in agreement, though my stomach churned with doubt. We'd spent 10 years trying to have a child of our own before accepting it wasn't meant to be. Then Sarah had stumbled across Tyler's profile in the adoption agency's database. An 18-year-old boy who had bounced between foster homes since he was 9, after his mother died of an overdose and his father disappeared. He was legally an adult but still in the system because he was finishing high school and had nowhere to go. He ages out of the system in 3 weeks. Ms. Benson continued. Without a support system, the statistics aren't in his favor. Homelessness, substance abuse, she trailed off, but we knew the rest. We have the room, the resources, and the love to give, I said, surprising myself with the conviction in my voice. Everyone deserves a family, no matter their age. 2 weeks later, we brought Tyler home. He had just 2 duffel bags of possessions and a guarded expression that broke my heart. Our spacious suburban house seemed to swallow him whole as he stood in the entryway, shoulders hunched as if bracing for a blow. Your room is upstairs, Sarah said, her voice wavering with nervous energy. We weren't sure what colors you liked, so we kept it neutral, but we can paint it however you want. Tyler nodded, his eyes darting around the living room, taking in the family photos on the walls, just Sarah and me, smiling from vacation spots and holiday gatherings. Thanks, he muttered, the first word he'd spoken since getting into our car. That night, after showing Tyler around and giving him space to unpack, I found Sarah in our bedroom, silently crying. Hey, I said, sitting beside her on the bed. What's wrong? What if we can't do this, Mark? She whispered. What if we're too late to make a difference in his life? I pulled her close. We have to try. That's all anyone can do. The first month was awkward, filled with stilted conversations over dinner and long silences. Tyler was polite but distant, answering questions with as few words as possible. He went to school, came home, did his homework, and retreated to his room. Sarah tried everything, cooking his favorite foods, asking about his interests, offering to help with college applications. I tried bonding through sports, inviting him to watch games with me or shoot hoops in the driveway. Slowly, imperceptibly at first, things began to change. Tyler started lingering at the dinner table, volunteering information about his day. He joined Sarah in the kitchen, showing her how to make the mac and cheese his mother used to cook. One Saturday, he accepted my invitation to help change the oil in my car, and we spent the afternoon talking about engines and his dream of becoming a mechanical engineer. After 3 months, I came home from work to find Tyler and Sarah laughing together on the couch, looking through old photo albums. Mark, Sarah called, her face alight with joy. Tyler was just telling me about the time he built a go-kart from scrap parts when he was 12. It didn't actually work, Tyler said with a shy smile, but it looked cool, still impressive. I said, feeling a surge of pride that caught me off guard. That night, as Sarah and I got ready for bed, she couldn't stop smiling. "Did you see how he opened up today?" she whispered. "He's starting to trust us." I nodded, but something nagged at me. "Have you noticed how different he is with you than with me?" Sarah paused, toothbrush halfway to her mouth. "What do you mean?" "He talks to you more, laughs with you. With me, he's still, reserved." "You're overthinking it," Sarah said, rinsing her mouth. "He's just more comfortable with me because I'm home more. You're at work all day." I wanted to believe her, but as the weeks passed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Tyler and Sarah developed inside jokes I wasn't part of. They had lengthy conversations that stopped abruptly when I entered the room. Several times, I came home to find them sitting unusually close on the couch, watching TV. "It's normal," my friend Dave assured me over beers one night. "Teens bond differently with different parents. Plus, he probably never had a stable mother." "Figure, I guess," I said, peeling the label off my bottle. "But sometimes I feel like I'm intruding in my own home." "You're jealous," Dave chuckled. "Welcome to parenthood, man." Was I jealous? The question haunted me as I drove home, my headlights cutting through the darkness. Maybe Dave was right. Maybe I was threatened by the bond forming between my wife and our adopted son, a bond I hadn't managed to create. When I got home, the house was quiet except for murmured voices coming from the kitchen. I paused in the hallway, listening. "You can't tell him," I heard Tyler say, his voice urgent. "Promise me, Sarah." "But he's your father now," Sarah replied. "He deserves to know." "No, he wouldn't understand. No one can know about this." My blood ran cold. What secret were they keeping from me? What wouldn't I understand? Over the next week, I watched them closely, cataloging every interaction, every shared glance, every whispered conversation. The suspicion grew inside me like a cancer, eating away at my trust. One night, I woke to find Sarah's side of the bed empty. The clock read to 17 a.m. I slipped out of bed and padded down the hallway, hearing soft voices from the living room. I peered around the corner to see Sarah and Tyler sitting close together on the couch, a box of tissues between them. Tyler was crying. "I just miss her so much," he sobbed. "Especially today." "I know," Sarah soothed, rubbing his back. "I can't imagine how hard this anniversary must be for you." I retreated to our bedroom, ashamed of my suspicions. Of course it was the anniversary of his mother's death. Sarah was comforting him, nothing more. But the next day, when I asked Sarah about their late-night conversation, she looked startled. "What, oh?" "Tyler had a nightmare. I heard him and went to check on him." A lie. Why would she lie? That's when I decided I needed to know what was happening between my wife and our adopted son. I needed to see them when they thought no one was watching. So I formulated a plan. I told them I had a business trip, would be gone overnight. Instead, I parked down the street and waited until they thought I was gone. Then I snuck back and, using my key, quietly made my way upstairs and hid in the hall closet that had a view of both the living room and the kitchen through the slats in the door. What I saw through those slats changed everything. What I saw shattered me. Michael was sitting on his bed, surrounded by dozens of photographs. In his hands was an old, worn leather journal. The closet door was cracked just enough that I could see his face clearly, tears streaming down his cheeks as he flipped through the pages. From my hiding spot, I could make out the photos scattered around him, pictures of a woman who looked strikingly familiar, though I couldn't place why. There were older photos too, yellowed with age, of what appeared to be the same woman when she was younger, standing beside a man whose face had been deliberately cut out of every single photo. Michael wiped his eyes and reached under the mattress, pulling out what looked like official documents, birth certificates, maybe. He laid them beside the journal and photos, arranging everything in some sort of order that seemed to make sense only to him. Then the bedroom door opened. Laura walked in. "Did you find anything new?" she asked softly, sitting on the edge of the bed beside him. She placed her hand on his shoulder in a gesture that was unmistakably maternal. Michael shook his head, running his finger over a photo of the woman. "Just more confirmation. These dates match the ones in Mom's journal." And I Found this. He handed Laura a yellowed newspaper clipping. That's her, right? With him, Laura took the clipping, studying it. Her face went pale. Yes. She whispered, that's them. Do you think he knows I exist? Michael asked, his voice breaking. Laura's fingers curled round the edge of the paper. I don't know. But if he did, and he still abandoned her. She trailed off, her jaw tightening. I shifted slightly, trying to get a better look at the newspaper clipping. The movement caused the closet door to creak. Both their heads snapped up. What was that? Michael whispered. Stay here, Laura instructed. Rising from the bed, I froze, holding my breath as my wife approached the closet. In one quick motion, she yanked the door open, revealing me crouched inside like a common burglar. Her eyes widened. James, what are you doing? The shame of being caught was quickly replaced by defensive anger. What am I doing? What are you doing? What's going on here, Laura? What are you hiding from me? Michael had scrambled to gather all the papers and photos, clutching them protectively to his chest. It's not what you think, Laura said, her voice surprisingly steady. Then what is it? I demanded, stepping out of the closet, trying to regain some dignity, because from where I'm standing, it looks like you two have been keeping secrets, whispering, sneaking around. Laura closed her eyes briefly, as if gathering strength. Then she turned to Michael. Show him. Michael hesitated, then slowly held out the journal and photographs. I took them with trembling hands. The woman in the photos was indeed familiar looking. At her was like seeing Laura 20 years younger. Same eyes, same smile, same dimple in her right cheek. That's my sister, Laura said quietly. Elaine. I looked up sharply. Your sister, the one you said died before we met. Laura nodded, tears welling in her eyes. Yes. I looked at Michael, really looked at him for the first time. The shape of his jaw, the slope of his nose, the familiar curve of his mouth when he frowned. I saw Laura in him. I saw Elaine. He's your nephew, I breathed. The realization dawning. Michael is your sister's son. Yes, Laura confirmed. My sister's son by a man who abandoned them both. I looked back at the photographs, at the faces of mother and son, now seeing the resemblance that I'd somehow missed. But why the secrecy? Why didn't you just tell me? He was your nephew from the beginning. Laura and Michael exchanged a glance, a silent communication passing between them. Because of who his father is, Laura finally said. Who? I asked, a sense of dread filling me. Laura took the newspaper clipping from Michael and handed it to me. I could now see it clearly, a society page from 20 years ago, a charity gala. And there in the center of the photo was Elaine, young and beautiful, on the arm of a man I knew all too well. My brother, Robert. The room seemed to tilt beneath me. I staggered back until my legs hit the bed and I sat down hard. That's impossible, I whispered, though looking at Michael now, I could see traces of my brother in him, to the height, the set of his shoulders, the way his eyebrows creased when he was upset. It was a brief affair, Laura explained, her voice tight with old pain. Robert was already engaged to Catherine. When Elaine told him she was pregnant, he denied everything, paid her to disappear, to never contact him again. She was only 22, but that would mean... I couldn't finish the thought. Michael is your nephew, Laura said. Your blood, just as much as he is mine. Michael was watching me, his expression, a mixture of apprehension and desperate hope. She never told me who my father was, he said, just that he came from money and wanted nothing to do with me. It was only after she died that I found her journal, with all these clues. And you? I asked Laura. How long have you known? I always suspected, she admitted. Elaine never confirmed it. But I knew she'd been seeing someone from a wealthy family who'd broken her heart. When I saw Michael's photo in the system, she shrugged helplessly. I knew instantly he was Elaine's son, but it wasn't until we took him in that I started to see Robert in him. I buried my face in my hands, trying to process everything, the whispers, the secrets. They weren't about an inappropriate relationship. They were about uncovering a painful family truth. A betrayal that reached back decades and connected us all in ways I never could have imagined. So all this time, I said finally, looking up at them both, you've been investigating my brother? Looking for proof that he's Michael's father? Laura nodded. We wanted to be absolutely certain before we told you. I knew how much you idolized Robert, how close you two were. I didn't want to destroy that without being sure." I laughed bitterly. The golden son, the successful businessman, the perfect husband and father. My brother had cultivated that image his entire life, and I had believed it. "Does he know," I asked, "that we've adopted his son?" "No," Laura said. "No one in your family knows." I turned to Michael, seeing him with new eyes. Not an interloper threatening my marriage, but my nephew, my flesh and blood, abandoned by my own brother. "What do you want?" I asked him directly. "Do you want to meet him? Do you want him to know who you are?" Michael was quiet for a long moment, considering the question. "I don't know," he said finally. "For years, I just wanted to know who he was. Now that I do," he shook his head. "I'm not sure I want anything from a man who could do that to my mother." I stood up, a strange calm settling over me. The jealousy and suspicion that had been eating me alive for months evaporated, replaced by a fierce, protective anger directed not at this boy, but at my brother. "Tomorrow," I said, "we're going to Robert's house. All three of us." "James," Laura began, sounding alarmed. "Not to make a scene," I clarified. "Not to demand anything. But Robert needs to look his son in the eye. Just once. He needs to see what he walked away from." Michael stood up too, nearly my height, his shoulders squared. "And if he denies it?" Again, I placed my hand on his shoulder, my nephew's shoulder. "Then we leave, and we'll be a family without him." Laura moved to stand beside us, forming a circle in the small bedroom. "We already are a family," she said, that night, as Laura and I lay in bed. I apologized for spying on them, for my suspicions and jealousy. "I understand why you did it," she said. "I just wish you'd trusted me enough to ask." "I wish you'd trusted me enough to tell me," I countered. She turned to face me in the darkness. "Would you have believed me, without proof? If I'd told you your perfect brother had fathered a child he abandoned?" I had no answer for that, because the truth was, I probably wouldn't have. The next morning, the three of us drove to Robert's sprawling suburban mansion. As we walked to the door, I noticed Michael hanging back slightly. "You don't have to do this," I told him. "I know," he said, "but I want to see him, just once." When Robert opened the door, his welcoming smile froze at the sight of us standing there, his eyes lingering on Michael with confusion. "James, Laura, what's this about? Who's Robert?" I interrupted. "I'd like you to meet Michael, Elaine Winter's son." The color drained from my brother's face as he stared at the young man. Before him, the living evidence of his greatest sin. And in that moment of recognition, as I watched the full weight of my brother's perfect life begin to crumble, I understood that sometimes what we discover when we peek behind closed doors isn't what we fear most, but something far more profound, the truth that will set us free. "Hand me the measuring cup," Sarah said, gesturing toward the cabinet. Tyler reached up, his tall frame easily accessing the high shelf where we kept the baking supplies. "1 cup of sugar, right? 1 1/4, Sarah corrected, glancing at her phone screen. "According to this recipe." They worked in companionable silence for a few minutes, and I felt a stab of guilt watching this innocent scene. What was I doing hiding in a closet spying on my family? I was about to reveal myself, to make up some excuse about forgetting something important from my trip, when Tyler spoke. "So, are you going to tell him when he gets back?" His voice was casual, but I could hear the tension beneath it. Sarah sighed, setting down the mixing bowl. "I don't know, Tyler. It's complicated. He's going to find out eventually," Tyler said, leaning against the counter. "And it'll be worse if he doesn't hear it from you. I know that." Sarah snapped, then immediately softened. "I'm sorry. I'm just scared." "Of what?" "Mark's a good guy. He'll understand." Sarah wiped her hands on a dish towel, leaving smears of flour. "Will he?" "This changes everything, Tyler. Everything we've built." I pressed closer to the slats, straining to hear better. What were they talking about? What secret could be so devastating? "I still think we need to tell him," Tyler insisted. "Tonight, when he calls to check in." "No," Sarah said firmly. "Not over the phone. This is an in-person conversation. Then tomorrow when he gets back." Sarah didn't respond, turning instead to slide the pan into the oven. They continued baking in silence, but the atmosphere had changed, charged with unspoken tension. After they finished cleaning up, Sarah announced she was going to take a shower. Tyler nodded and disappeared into the living room. I remained frozen in the closet, my mind racing through possibilities, each worse than the last. 20 minutes later, Sarah emerged from the bathroom wrapped in her robe, her hair wrapped in a towel. She padded down the hallway, pausing outside the closet where I hid. For a terrifying moment, I thought she might open the door, but she continued to our bedroom. I waited another 10 minutes before carefully opening the closet door, intending to slip out of the house unnoticed. But as I stepped into the hallway, I heard Tyler's voice from the living room. "I found another one," he said, his voice excited. "Look at this." Curiosity overcame caution, and I crept down the hallway, staying close to the wall where the floorboards were less likely to creak. I positioned myself where I could see into the living room. Without being seen, Tyler and Sarah sat on the floor, surrounded by papers and photographs. Tyler held up a yellowed newspaper clipping, pointing to something on the page. "See? That's him right there," he said. "Same name, same hometown." Sarah took the clipping, studying it. "You're right. It has to be him. We have enough evidence." "Now," Tyler said, gathering the papers into a folder, "DNA would confirm it, but I'm 99% sure." "I can't believe we actually found him," Sarah whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "After all these years, my father," Tyler said, the words hanging in the air like smoke. "My real father." The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. I gripped the wall for support, trying to make sense of what I was hearing. They weren't having an affair, they were searching for Tyler's biological father. But why keep it secret from me? Before I could process this revelation, my phone buzzed loudly in my pocket, a text message notification. The sound cut through the quiet house like an alarm. Sarah and Tyler froze, their heads snapping toward the hallway where I stood. "Mark," Sarah called, her voice uncertain. "Is that you?" There was nowhere to hide, no explanation that would make sense. I stepped into the living room, guilt and confusion written across my face. What are you doing here?" Sarah asked, scrambling to her feet. "You're supposed to be in Chicago." "I never left." I admitted. I've been watching you both." Tyler's face darkened. "You've been spying on us." "What the hell, Mark?" I broke off, unable to voice my shameful suspicions. "I knew you were keeping something from me. I could feel it." Sarah's expression shifted from shock to anger. "So, instead of asking us, you decided to hide in the closet like some kind of creep. How could you?" "How could I?" I echoed, my own anger flaring. "How could you keep secrets from me? We're supposed to be a family. That's exactly why we were doing this," Tyler shouted, gesturing to the papers scattered on the floor. "Because we're a family." Sarah placed a calming hand on Tyler's arm, then turned to me. "Sit down. Mark, we need to talk." I sank onto the couch, suddenly exhausted. Sarah sat beside me, not touching, while Tyler remained standing, arms crossed. Defensively, "We were going to tell you everything tomorrow," Sarah began. "We wanted to be sure before we brought it up." "Tell me what?" I asked, though I already knew part of the answer. Sarah took a deep breath. "A few weeks ago, Tyler found some old letters from his mother. They mentioned his father not by full name, but enough details that we thought we might be able to track him down." "I never knew anything about him," Tyler added, his voice softer now. "My mom would never talk about him, just said he wasn't in the picture." "So you've been, what, investigating?" I asked. Sarah nodded. "At first, it was just looking through the letters. Then we started searching online, checking public records, and," I prompted, when neither continued. Tyler and Sarah exchanged a glance. "We found him," Tyler said simply. "My biological father. He lives about 40 miles from here." I absorbed this information, trying to understand why they'd kept it from me. "Were you planning to contact him?" "We don't know yet," Sarah said. "That's part of what we were discussing. But why the secrecy? Why not tell me from the beginning?" Sarah looked down at her hands. "Because of who he is, Mark." "What do you mean?" Tyler stepped forward, handing me a photograph. It showed a younger version of a man I recognized immediately. "My cousin Richard." "Your cousin is my biological father," Tyler said quietly. Which means you and I are related by blood. The room seemed to spin around me as the implications sank in. Richard, who had grown up in the same town as Tyler's mother. Richard, who had a history of disappearing for months at a time. Richard, who had never married or had children, or so we all thought. That's impossible. I stammered. Is it? Sarah asked gently. Look at Tyler, Mark. Really look at him. I raised my eyes to study the young man standing before me, the shape of his jaw, the set of his eyes, the way he held himself. How had I not seen it before? The resemblance to my father's side of the family was subtle but unmistakable. The timing fits, Sarah continued. The location fits. And look at these. She handed me the papers they'd been examining: birth certificates, old photographs, the letters from Tyler's mother that mentioned a man named Rich who had green eyes. Just like Tyler's. We found his name in your mother's old address book when we visited last month, Sarah explained. That's when we really started to believe it might be true. We were going to tell you tomorrow, Tyler said, his anger fading to uncertainty. We wanted to have all the facts first. We didn't want to turn your family upside down without being sure. But why would you think this would turn my family upside down? I asked, still trying to process everything. Sarah and Tyler exchanged another look, because Tyler said hesitantly, according to my mom's letters, Richard never knew about me. She never told him she was pregnant. And Sarah added softly, if we're right, that means you didn't just adopt a random teenager in need. You adopted your own flesh and blood, your first cousin once removed. You've been family all along. The reality of it hit me like a physical blow. All this time, all the jealousy and suspicion, when what was really happening was that I had unknowingly brought my own relative into my home. The universe had arranged for us to find each other, to become a family in truth as well as in name. I don't know what to say, I admitted, my voice cracking. Tyler sat down on the coffee table across from me, our knees almost touching. You don't have to say anything right now. It's a lot to take in. But are you mad we didn't tell you sooner? I shook my head slowly. No, I'm not mad. I'm just overwhelmed. I looked at Sarah. I'm sorry I didn't trust you. I'm sorry I hid in a closet instead of just asking what was going on. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. And I'm sorry we kept this from you. We should have included you from the start. So what happens now? I asked, looking between them. Do we contact Richard? Tyler took a deep breath. I think so, if you're okay with it. He deserves to know he has a son. And you deserve to know your father, I said, reaching out to grasp his shoulder. Your biological father. I mean, Mark, Tyler said, his voice thick with emotion. Finding Richard doesn't change anything between us. You're still the one who stepped up. You're still my dad. The word dad hung in the air between us. The first time he had ever called me that, I felt something break open inside me. A flood of emotion I couldn't contain. I pulled Tyler into a hug, feeling him stiffen. Momentarily before his arms came around me, over his shoulder, I met Sarah's tearful gaze. Her smile was radiant with relief and love. I have an idea, I said as Tyler and I separated. Let's call Richard together, as a family. Tyler nodded, a tentative smile spreading across his face. As a family, and as the three of us huddled around the phone, I realized that the truth I had discovered hiding in that closet wasn't a betrayal or a scandal. It was a miracle, one that had brought us together in ways none of us could have imagined. Sometimes the most shocking revelations are the ones that show us our lives have more meaning than we ever dared to hope. End.